Gosh, we are still in off-season mode, but that doesn't mean there isn't stuff to talk about. So we're going to talk about it. But first, guys, it's been 2 weeks, which feels like an eternity to not like talk to you in person. So, Josh, what's been going on?
Like nothing. It's very off season right now. I feel like everything is kind of like the calm before the storm. I think last time we talked, I was like in the middle of designing scarves, like getting the scarf design from Zach, the guy who's designing a scarf this year, and like working on ordering stuff and all that jazz. We had a meeting with the front office to kind of like go over like, hey, this year, what are we doing with like tailgate? What are we doing with like in stand stuff? So it was productive. It was really cool. We got a tour of Montour, which
Ooh.
was really fun. Yeah, like when I set up the meeting, I was like, "Hey, can we have the meeting at Montour Junction?" Just like I want to check out the place. He's like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." So Jeff took us around, showed us all the whole place. It was hilarious because like as we're walking around, it's like, "Oh, hey, Kevin Kerr. Oh, hey, Cutney." I'm trying to think of all the people saw, but it was just yeah, it was just like a who's who, the former Hounds and all that kind of stuff because they're all coaching, and that place was packed. Like I thought we were gonna get there, it was gonna be like kind of dead, like a couple cars in the parking lot. No, it turns out that place is 24/7, like full of people because of the training, like all the kids, the
Academy and
academy.
yeah.
Yeah, like so many people there, so many people. So it's cool. Yeah, I can't wait to it's not quite done yet as far as like all the stuff they want to put in there. They're still building like a cafe area. They have like a full on gift shop though. Like it's more stock than I think I've seen like the Hound
Like,
store sometimes. Like
like
it's
Hounds apparel and stuff?
yeah, like it's packed full of Hound stuff and it looks great. Stuff was in there that has not been in the store yet. So I was like looking, I'm like,
Mm,
yeah, do I want? No, I'm gonna hold off. So, but yeah,
that's
really
awesome.
cool place. It's pretty awesome.
We've been talking. Steve might try to do a video special of getting a tour of the place that we can then share with everybody. So we're trying to line that up. We'll see if that can actually happen. But yeah, no, really excited to see everything that's going on in there. The initial pictures look great. Kev, what's been going on with you?
Nothing much. Today I got to. I've been like 7 years at my job that I'm at, and I finally like took some tours of like big things at the lab or whatever. So today I
Well, hold on.
toured.
Like tell people where you work.
Or
Oh,
can you?
no, yeah. I work at Oak Ridge National Lab down here in Tennessee, and so like on site, we have like the supercomputer. We have two, I guess you would call them like particle accelerators and like particle colliders. And so today I took an official tour of one of them, the spallation neutron source, which is, they just ram a bunch of protons into neutrons and do cool material science stuff. And so yeah, I got to like tour that and see, like huge slabs of cement containing radiation and just like people doing real looking science things. The way I described it was like, remember all that like science stuff you learned in high school that like you never had to apply again for the rest of your life? Like these people actually like went on and like made a career out of that. Like they were, like I was like, that was the first time in like 15 years I had to like remember what an ion was. I was like, oh yeah, that's what it is. So
When
pretty
you
cool
first
people.
said tour, I totally thought like Kevin's been at this job for 7 years. He didn't know where the coffee maker was. Like, oh, there's a third floor of this place. Cool.
I mean, I wouldn't put that past me either. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's cool.
Cool.
That and the other exciting thing is I watched Troy this weekend, the movie. So
Call it. Wait,
Exciting,
consider
I
that
guess. Yeah.
exciting? Yeah. Okay. All right.
I don't know. I've just been telling like that's what I did. So I'm just telling people that's what I did this weekend. So
Okay.
Legit.
Brad
Are you
Pitt.
guys are you guys hyped about the well, everything that's going on with the transfer window in the EPL? Josh, I saw you get a new manager now. So
Yeah,
yay.
it's like Lampard out. It's like, okay, cool. Like that's not gonna help. We've done this like every year now for like 3 years. Like it's like okay, cool. Yeah, new manager. Let's see what we get now. Like I have no faith that the front office knows what they're doing, or like they'll hire someone who actually is gonna help us. So I don't know. I can't get excited or at this point, just apathy. It's just literally like, whatever. Like, we'll see what happens. We need players badly, but I don't know.
Yeah. Kev, I had to laugh that, this whole Jude Bellingham thing with Liverpool and how Stevie G is like right back on the Liverpool wagon trying to stump for him to get Bellingham to come to Liverpool. I'm like, well, that didn't take long. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Hey, you guys fired him. All right. That's your fault.
Okay. You guys go ahead and hire him and see how well that works out for you. So, yeah.
I'm not saying you should.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, he was not. I like the guy.
We'll see.
He was not a good manager.
We'll see what happens with the whole Bellingham stuff. I'm following it from afar. I think something popped up on the YouTube algorithm from like Sky saying that, Liverpool say they're optimistic in getting him. But that's not signing him. So we'll see what happens with that whole saga. But yeah, I'm by choice keeping a distance from Liverpool in the Premier League this season.
That's fair.
It is. I will say though, like I started the original kind of like thought process for that decision was okay. Obviously, like Liverpool struggling, but also I was just convinced with the way Haaland was playing. I was like, okay, no one's going to stop them. Like this is the era of City, and now. Okay, like Arsenal have made things interesting. So Arsenal are a really interesting kind of team to watch this season, obviously. So it's been cool.
I think it's Arsenal's league at this point. I think they're going to win it. I think that City are focused on the Champions League. They just want to get the Champions League. So that's not to say they're not going to make a push, but Arsenal are pretty far ahead at this point. I know we're only halfway through the season, but yeah, interesting stuff. Let's talk a little bit about Hounds, gentlemen. Well, not just Hounds. There's been a whole mess of news that's come out over the past 2 weeks that we haven't talked about, so we figured might as well talk about it. I did mention, I think last time, that I was going to try to make like a little click wheel, and this did not turn out as well. It doesn't click. Like it. Wait, hold on. Let's see. Like it's like it's
a little works.
Yeah. It's kind of like, do you remember playing the game of Life? Like it's like that kind of click wheel where like it just kind of pops off, and I got a better click wheel coming. Don't worry. Like with a dry, I found one that has like a dry erase, so like we can write topics on it and spin it, and it'll be great. So
I can't believe you actually bought a quick wheel.
Yeah, I got problems. Anyway, we're just going to dive right into all of the different topics. I think leading off, just for starters, we have to give an early shout out. If you have not listened to the latest episode of Houndsy, where Danios talks to former Hounds Dennis Chin. Dennis is now an agent, a player's agent. The amount of insight that Chin provides on that episode is insane. And kudos to Yost. He totally crushed it in terms of the interview and sort of lining up Dennis Chin for the interview. But they talk about everything from like players' actual motivations when they go to teams. Hint, it's not money. To because Dennis is working with both European and American players, where he sees the MLS and USL in the pyramid of English leagues and sort of where that stands and why he thinks they are the way they are. Hint, it is money. It was a fantastic listen. And it was like every turn, there was some other question that Dennis was just sharing info that, I never would have thought to ask an agent. So it just fantastic show. You have to go check it out. Houndsy, anywhere you listen to podcasts, go listen to it. It was really, really well done. So, yeah, kudos to you guys there. That was great. Yeah, I guess next up we got there's not much. Just go listen to it. There's nothing really else to say about it. It's just, you have to go listen to it, and then you can share your thoughts afterwards. Guys, the Hounds announced their preseason schedule today. So, a couple of interesting things. I'm going to rattle off the dates. They announced 6 games. We have 1 game against an MLS team. We have 3 games against college teams, and we have 2 games against USL championship teams. And so the first game is going to be on February 4th at Columbus Crew, which if you're checking your watches like I am right now, today is the 23rd of January. So that's like less than 2 weeks away. We're going to be in Columbus playing the Crew. After that, We'll be home to Penn State on the 11th, home to Akron on the 18th. Then we go to Detroit City FC, baby, on the 21st of February. Then we are home on the 25th against Pitt, wrapping things up on March 4th at home against Louisville. So, Josh, I know you saw the schedule. Kev, I don't know if you saw it prior to this. So, Josh, what were your initial thoughts when you saw the schedule?
All right. So first off, Columbus right off the bat. Do we have 11 players signed? So I guess we have a squad. So that's good. I'm a little bit worried about like what's the point of going to Columbus if we don't even have a squad, but we do have a squad. And I'm sure there's other players that
Lots of trialists.
Yeah, or they could be farther along than we even know. So
Right.
like it's hard telling what we have, but that will pretty much you can guarantee Columbus is closed doors. So we're not going to hear anything about that one. That's behind closed doors. Colleges, yeah, I mean that's kind of par for the course for us. I'm over kind of like wishing we had more not colleges, but we do have a couple, which is great. But that kind of brings me to Detroit. Detroit apparently their preseason matches are usually behind closed door as well. So most likely we won't hear much about that one either. And then Louisville is the big one, obviously. And it's kind of cool that it's the last one because it means we should be getting pretty close to like that's our squad. This is like it. So it's always good to play a great team when you're trying to test them out. And that one is at home. My understanding is if the weather is good enough, it will be at Highmark. And those are open to the public. If the weather is not, or the field is not, I should say, that's when they'll take the game to Montour. No word yet if we're allowed to watch the game in Montour. Like they don't really have it set up for that, but at the same time, people watch practices at like the academy stuff. So it's very possible we could be able to go in there. But I think they want to treat this game as a kind of pre-run trial for the season. Since they have a lot of away games at the beginning of the season, this will be kind of like their one opportunity to see if the systems are getting in place or how they're planning on doing the ticketing, not ticketing because it's free, but all that kind of stuff will be set up for them. So it could be almost like a mini home game, like
It's like
not
a soft
quite
open.
like a soft open type idea. So that'd be cool. And also, actually, that's all. I'll leave it at that because we haven't announced anything else yet as far as AGMs or anything like that. We usually do an AGM during preseason. So
It felt like you knew some other inside information that you were just like, oh, like caught yourself. So
nothing's official yet, so I didn't want to like announce anything for sure. So
that's fair. Kev, what are your thoughts on the schedule?
I was going to say, I mean, like, look, the facade drops this year. Every year, I try to think about like, okay, what's something intelligent and entertaining I can say about preseason. I hate preseason. I hate it so much. I hate like pretending to care about preseason games. I will say, this year, I mean, the schedule, I think, it looks good. I mean, it's a nice combination of like home and away games. It's a nice combination of like ramping up to something. And it's, I don't know, just like psychologically, it's kind of nice to like test yourself first game out against an MLS team to kind of like get your head straight about like what's in front of you and what you need to be doing. And then, give yourself some time to like work out tactics and everything like that with against some like college teams. Not to say that those will be straightforward, but and you have a big kind of away trip to Detroit and then home game to Louisville. So yeah, I mean, I think the schedule is quite good. That being said, I just don't care about preseason.
If you were at the games, I think you would care more because I'm telling you, man, nothing's better than being able to sit behind Bob and listen to him coach with no people in the stands really. So it's you hear every word.
Yeah,
that would be good.
I do love going to preseason. The last preseason game I went to was 2020, right before COVID. I mean, we sat. Josh, I can't remember if you were there. Laura Allen and Justin were there, but we sat along like the expensive seats, like right on the field. And yeah, you hear everything. It was great. So yeah, if you get a chance to go, absolutely go check it out. You guys are both relatively positive. I'll bring the slight negativity to it because that's my vibe this year. I think the teams are good. I think playing Columbus first is wasted. I think that it's like, if you're going to test yourself against an MLS team, neither team is going to take that seriously at all. So like, why are we going to Columbus to play this game? Like, it's not, you're not testing yourself against actual competition. So I'd love to see Columbus come to play us at Highmark, even for a preseason, but that sounds like that's just never going to happen. So you just kind of have to take it like, okay, we're going to play Columbus and that'll be that. So Kev, I'm with you. Like that game means nothing to me. The caliber of the college teams that we're playing is good, especially we know Pitt has made it to the Final Four the past few seasons, so that's good. And I think supporting local team is great. I love seeing both Detroit and Louisville on the schedule. I think that to test ourselves against actual championship teams, which has not always been a given in the past, is really, really good, and especially against a team like Detroit that we're starting to consider to be a rival, and Louisville, who we consider as a rival, but I'm not convinced they consider us to be a rival, is great. I'd love to see more USL teams, even if they're like USL 1 teams rather than college teams, just from the standpoint of you want to test yourself against the best and against actual competition that you're going to be, or the level of competition that you're going to be at. And you're playing against a bunch of college kids that aren't professionals. We've had situations in the past where some of those guys have come in and just try to prove a point, and they're taking shots at our guys, and like you don't want to see that happen. So it's a great step to get both Detroit and Louisville on the schedule. I'd love to see some more of those college games fade away. I could see always playing Pitt. I could see that just being an annual thing, and that's fine because of our relationship. But I'd love to see more of those fade away. And I truly wouldn't mind even seeing some League One teams, because some of the caliber of the League One teams are getting substantially better. So that's my biggest gripe is I look at the teams and I'm like, I know all their names. That's great. Like this is good. This is a lot better than previous years. But I think there's still a ways to go. So I applaud the effort to get us here, but I'm going to keep egging the team on to keep doing better. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Am I being too harsh? I see Josh, you're kind of sort of nodding.
I don't know. I think I don't agree with the Columbus Crew statement. Like, even if we're playing their bench players or something like that, like there's still going to be players that are good. It's a good kind of matchup for us. And also it's their preseason. So like, won't they also be trying to trial their players? So like, they're not going to just have like nobody on the field. Like they're going to be testing out their players too.
I get it, but you figure on February 4th, like half the players on our team aren't even going to be in the team at the end of training camp. Like Bob's just trying to see guys on the field. And so it feels wasted to play a team like Columbus. The big question that we always have is like, where do we rank as it relates to MLS teams? And that's what part of the fun of the US Open Cup is you actually get to compete against those kind of teams. And so to play Columbus, like I'd love to see the Columbus game be last, even if we're assuming that we're going to lose. But Josh, to your point, that's the game where you like got your guys in that you're expecting to be the guys for the first game of the season. Whereas against Columbus, it's going to be a bunch of trialists that, aren't going to see the light of day. And so it's a waste. It doesn't mean anything, to Kevin's point. Like we'll see the final score and we'll go great. And I'd love for that to be like against Akron rather than Columbus Crew.
I think there's value in it for the team, but not for the fans. Like for building the team. I think
I get that.
A lot of value. That's what I meant. Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. All right. Good. That's our thoughts. Let us know what you think on that. More Hounds news, guys. Since the last time we talked, we were speculating about, I think at the time there were 9 players that the team had announced, and Bob said that there were 11 that were signed. So there was a lot of speculation on our part as to who the remaining 2 players were. We all sort of assumed that Danny Rivera would be one of the players because the Hounds opening day promo had him in it. And then there was like some other piece of marketing that like let it slip that Rivera was still around. I can't remember what it was now at this point, but regardless, it's now been confirmed. Danny Rivera is back with the team. Not only is he back with the team, it sounds like he is going to be stopping by to chat with us next Monday. So for those of you who are Danny Rivera fans, send us your questions because he's going to hang out and we're going to have a good time next Monday. Guys, Kev, thoughts on Danny Rivera coming back for, I think this is his 6th season now with the Hounds, 5th or 6th? It's either 5th or 6th. Now I can't remember the exact number.
That surprises me. Yeah, I would have thought it would be less than that. No, I think the thing with Danny Rivera with me is that I never, like from memory, I don't remember him getting long, consistent runs in the team, whether that gets interrupted through like injuries or, Bob shakes up the lineup in some way and, he just kind of sticks with it. But I think anytime Danny gets in, he puts in a good performance. And you know what? I think, was he the one that had the man marking duty against the Indy guy?
Tyler Pasher?
Yeah.
Drink, Josh. You have the drink. You have to take it now. There you go.
But like I mean, I think Rivera is just he's a flexible player who can play in a couple different positions. He's athletic, and he knows the Lilly system. And like I said, when he gets runs in the team, I like him in it. So yeah, no, I think it makes a ton of sense for him to be brought in.
Josh, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I think he's a good player, and he's one of those players I kind of always want to see growing with the team and becoming more and more part of it. And I'm super happy that he's still there.
He's always up for like a gnarly yellow card too, which I like,
I was going to say he's that guy for you, Kev. Like, he's going to bring some grit. Yeah. He's going to complain to the ref. He's going to probably get a yellow at some point.
He's just one of those players where it's like if you played, you want to play with him. Yes. You would hate to play against him. Like, but you would like, oh, I'm glad he's on my team kind of thing.
Yeah. I think I'm super happy that he's back. I'm just going to put that out there. I think the one thing that I almost feel bad for Danny about is it seems like Bob sees him as a jack of all trades, master of none, where it's just like, I can plug him in as a winger. I can plug him in as somebody that man marks at, central mid. He can put him pretty much anywhere. And he's played, I think at one point he played forward last season. But he doesn't have that one spot that's completely locked down in his because he is so versatile. So it'll be interesting to see how Lilly goes about using him this season.
I get how that can be frustrating as a player because I imagine it's easier and preferred for you if you get to play in,
right,
what's likely the one position you actually do want to play in. But simultaneously, I mean, look, it makes your life harder for sure. But it doesn't mean that, there's, I don't know, any kind of lower ceiling on how much the fans can love you. Because I'm also thinking of like Ryan James, who he kind of played all over the field. And, I'd kind of put him in one of those, generalists categories. And he was great. So, yeah.
Yeah, agreed. No, and clearly he has Lilly's trust. He has the team's trust. I think it was his second year that Lilly had him man mark Tyler Pasher for that entire game, and it's just, yeah. So, no, great stuff that Danny's back. Super excited. He posted a video. Yeah, way to go, Josh. Thanks. Josh taking a drink. He posted a video from home, just saying how excited he is to be back. So yeah, I can't wait to talk to him. Hopefully, like I said, next week we've got that lined up, and it'll be a good time. In his like 5 or 6 years, we've never had him on the show. So I was like, how did that happen? Like, I think we've talked to pretty much all of the old school guys. Some guys are on their second round through. So we got to talk to Danny. The other player that was announced this past week, Edward Kizza, the Birmingham Legion killer, is back. I think some of us had speculated about whether or not he would be back, whether or not this would be a good thing or for him, or just general thoughts. So, Kev, what are your thoughts on Kizza returning to Pittsburgh and taking up a spot in the forward position?
I think it's great. I don't know why. Sometimes my brain forces like to make analogies or metaphors or whatever, and it's like Kizza. I feel like he's just like a shot of espresso. Like, it doesn't take long for him, but it's just like woo! Like, you just he gets in there and just you know what I mean. Like, you're not drinking a cup of you drink a cup of coffee for a couple minutes, and espresso, it's down in 1 minute, but man, it hits you. And I feel like that's Kizza. Like, he just had such an impact last season in big games and big moments. created a lot of memories in a relatively short amount of like minutes played over the course of the season. I mean, and so for that, I mean, and when coming in when he did, you know, and still having that impact, not having a preseason, you know, not having, you know, the time to settle. Yeah. I mean, I think he's one of those where it's, you can kind of say his upside is like high uncertainty, but his low side is like very low risk. Like, I don't think he's going to be doing, you know, I think like we know what he can do. And now it's just, we don't know like how much better he can become given a full season with a preseason and like potentially more minutes played and more games started and all that.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. So he joined us mid-season-ish last year after he had a loan stint. I believe it was with Memphis that he was recalled by, I believe it was New England Revolution, and then we picked him up for a loan from there. So we only had him for part of the season. He didn't really have a chance to go through a preseason and, you know, latch on the Lilly system. Josh, what are your thoughts on as Liz reminded me, the Birmingham Dream Killer,
Yes.
BDK coming back.
BDK coming back. It's awesome. I was super excited. I didn't think we would get him back since he was on loan. I just kind of figured it was a loan deal. Like now it's up to New England, like what they want to do with him. But the fact that he was able to get officially signed with the Riverhounds, no longer on loan, actually one of our players, is great. He was a lot of fun to watch, and I'm just hoping for more from him, to maybe even see him more often. He made 10 appearances last season, so yeah, it'll be fun. So I'm excited. Like obviously he did like tear up the field and make a whole bunch of goals, but at the same time he didn't really get a chance. So
yeah, that's my big question. I'm excited that he's back. My big question is what does, you know, a full season with Lilly mean for Kizza? And you know, is he destined to play second fiddle to Dequa? Are they different enough players that maybe Lilly deploys them in different formations in different ways? You know, Dequa for the most part last season sort of played up top by himself. And so what does that mean? Do we go to a two-man front? Do we have Dequa play a little bit underneath and Kizza up top? We'll have to wait and see. But that's one of my big questions heading into the season is just knowing what Kizza did for the team at the end of last year, how does that translate into, you know, what his role will be in 2023 and what has Lilly sort of promised him heading into 2023? I think that'll be very interesting. So yeah, 2 more signings, 2 more former Hounds. We really haven't had, other than Farrell, anyone new come into the squad yet. Our current roster, Josh, to your point, you know, we may not have enough players for Columbus. We have Jamali Waite signed at keeper. We have 2 center backs, Ordonez and Farrell. We talked about Farrell last time. Our wingers are Dos Santos, Biasi, and Rivera. At midfield, we have Kenny, Mertz, and Ibarra. And then up front, we have Dequa and Kizza, as we just said. So that still makes me really nervous. I'm, you know, like I know that we like to build a lot through these combines and all of that, and that's great. But it's still, that feels like every position could be upgraded except for maybe keeper. Like I'm pretty happy with Waite for the season. We know Lilly will bring in at least 2 other keepers, but yeah,
plenty of time. There's bargains to be made. You know, MLS players who don't get their shot to be scooped up. You know, plenty can happen.
Okay,
I agree.
You got every so many days, I'm like, man, we haven't heard anything from the Hounds. Like, what is going on over there?
Was that the Crickets?
That's the Crickets, yeah.
Tweet you made a while
Every
ago?
so often I get antsy and I'll just start tweeting Crickets because it's just like, come on, like trying to goad them into something. Like, just come on. Like,
that will do it. I'm sure they're feeling the pressure from the Mongols accounts.
Yep. I know.
You should see how long it takes or how quickly you can get them to say no to interview requests. Like, no. Just stop.
Yeah. The one other bit of Hounds news that's not really Hounds news, but it was announced that Jelani Peters has signed with Memphis. So center back of ours, no longer with the Hounds. His contract was up. Staying in the East Coast. So we will see him twice, theoretically. And yeah, best of luck to Peters. Yeah.
Would you guys would have preferred if you would have stayed around?
I don't have a strong feeling about that one. Like, I mean, obviously, any player as a person, like, you get to know them.
Yeah.
It's sad to see him go. But as far as like what he brought to the team, I don't think it was something that we're going to be not able to find somewhere else.
Yeah. Agreed. I think Lilly has shown a penchant for being able to find center backs. And so that's the one position that, even if we're light on it, I'm fairly confident that we'll be okay over the course of the season. It's more the attacking positions that give me pause, just because we've talked about system and potentially lack of system and how do players fit into that. And okay, no more negativity. Actually, I say this in our next item that I want to touch on. Actually, there's a spin on this. So here we go. Okay. So our buddy Ryan Allen from the USL show at ILM_Ryan, he has been on our show at least once or twice before. I remember there's one episode we did the entire episode and then his audio like completely failed. And so we had to scrap the whole show. He did a month-by-month regular season comparison record of USL Championship and Pro Champion since 2011. And he found it interesting that apparently 8 of the last 9 champions in USL Championship went unbeaten in March. So immediately I was like, that's interesting, because we always like to talk about how notoriously the Hounds start slow. Or at least in my mind, I'm like, the Hounds always start slow. So I went back and I looked. That's not actually true. Like, I don't know where that sentiment comes from, but even if we look at not just March, we look at just the first 5 games of the season. In 2018, we had 2 wins and 3 draws. So we had no losses in the first 5 games. 2019, we had 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss, which not terrible. 2020, we had 3 wins and 2 losses. So we had 2 losses in 2020. That whole year was just a whole kerfuffle. So whatever. 2021, we had 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. So that's not fantastic. But then in 2022, we had 4 wins and a draw in the first 5 games. So those of you who are making fun of me for saying we were going to be undefeated, you can eat it, because those first 5 games, we weren't terrible.
Yeah, but the timing of that prediction, Mike, came before a ball was kicked, I think.
Which makes it all the more like 5 games in, I was still sitting pretty. So yeah, I don't want to hear it. The one interesting thing though, just the Hounds connection, is the year that the Rhinos like won it all. They had no losses until August. Which is kind of insane. And Ryan had a follow-up tweet about that. Like, is anyone ever going to match that level of output again?
Lily is.
Okay.
Just one note here, behind the scenes stuff. So Mike told us, he's like, hey, make sure you check the outline. There's a lot of stuff in there, and prepare yourself. A couple of days ago, he said that. I come on today, like earlier, and I look at the outline, and I did not see anything below the first page, because I thought it looked like it was like, oh, the outline's like half a page long. So I thought he was just making a joke about how like the show was. And then just now, when you were like, okay, let's go on to the next thing, I'm like, next thing. And then I scroll down, I'm like, oh, there's like 2 more pages of outline. Crap. So all this is a surprise to me.
Awesome. Well, that's good. This will be fun. Okay. But yeah, so we'll have to, it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on teams due in March. But fun little stat there from our buddy Ryan over at the USL show.
I don't know. How do you guys interpret that? I don't know. Like, so my immediate reaction is like, okay, like I would say that's like it's correlation, not causation.
I was
like,
going to make that same. I was like
Yeah.
waiting for you to actually say it, because I figured you'd be the one to say it. But yeah, causation, correlation. It's like that's not the same thing. Like that's just a cool little statistic that just happens to be.
I mean, there could be like some underlying things of saying like, okay, maybe these are the teams that kind of figured out like themselves earlier than any other team. and then that's what kind of carries you on to such a successful season or whatever. But yeah, we'll see.
I think what will be interesting, I did not look at these numbers. I just looked at the final wins and losses, but I also get the sense, and again, this could be completely false because I need to actually look at the numbers, but it seems like especially the first few games of the season, they're typically higher scoring because it seems like it takes at least a few games for the defenses to figure out what it is they're supposed to be doing. And so that just gives the offenses more of an opportunity. So it will be interesting to see if the first few games are, if we're putting in bangers, and then it starts to ticker off, and if it doesn't ticker off, like that could be a really good sign for us. But yeah,
I will say too. I don't know. Looking at this graphic too, I mean, like, okay, like it doesn't hurt that these are really good teams, and like, and if you look like in April, May, June, some of them, like at most they're losing like a game a month,
right.
which is crazy. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, that the fact that they went like the first month without that one column in the loss, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, turns out good teams win. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess moving on from that, guys, one thing that I'm guessing you didn't read about because you didn't know it was in the notes. So maybe a week ago, the USL announced the USL Step Up program. And for those who don't know about this, they are basically trying to instill a pathway on the women's side so that women can go from playing in the USL Academy to what is called the USLW League, which would then feed the USL Super League, which is basically the women's equivalent of the USL Championship League. And first of all, sounds like a fantastic program. I was shocked to hear that basically the USLW League went from 44 clubs in 2022, 2022 to 65 clubs in 2023. So they've added 22 clubs over the course of a year, and they're targeting having 100 teams by 2026. And the thought is that league will then be a feeder for the USL Super League, which will start in August of 2024. My immediate reaction is there's 65 women's teams playing in the USLW League, and Pittsburgh doesn't have one. Like you talk about like markets and like market share and audience and people, and like you play this in every other sport where it's like, why doesn't Pittsburgh have an NBA team? And like 65 other cities are going to have a women's team in a USLW league, regardless. The women are going to play from August to March. They're on the European schedule, where the men play from March to October. So I'm not saying anything, but we did put out a tweet saying how amazing it would be to have guys from March to October and then women August to March and basically have 24/7, 365 Hounds. And River Hounds president Jeff Gardner liked the tweet. So
not
take that for
too
what
much
it is.
into this.
Yeah,
but,
don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I would be very, very, very surprised if we don't have a women's team. I don't know if the women's team's going to be the Hounds doing. Like, I think Pittsburgh will have a women's team. And there's like, if the Hounds don't scoop up the opportunity, someone else will. Because I do think the talent is in Pittsburgh on the women's side of soccer. Like, we've even seen it with the women's academy, like the girls' academy, as far as Hounds go. Like, they've had huge success, and players have gone on to do great things. So, I mean, it's. I think it would be a waste for us not to have it, and I think it would be nice if the Hounds were to, like, I feel like they should have capitalized on it, because if they don't, someone else will.
Yeah. And that's the thing that sort of gets me is that this whole step up program is meant to be a funnel from the academy to the pros. So as you said, Josh, with our academy blooming the way that it is and doing amazing things, it would just make sense to try to give those women a pathway all the way up to pro. And, I know that one of the things that they work with at Highmark is just trying to get events there from a stadium standpoint of trying to fill the stadium, trying to make money through the stadium. You'd literally have that stadium in operation 12 months out of the year, supporting both guys and girls. And especially if you only have a slight overlap, can you imagine the number of fans that would just get you wouldn't get you just get yearly tickets, and you would just go to every game. You'd literally have a Hounds game to go to every single week. And sometimes you would have two because, guys and girls. Well, you have multiples for guys sometimes too, but
You also have home and away, so not every way, every day of the week. But
regardless, we're in
yes.
this weird off-season period where we're looking at tweets, and that's our topic for the show. And no, we could be covering a women's team. That would be amazing.
A little bit concerned about the European schedule because of the weather in Pittsburgh. For a women's team to be playing outdoors, that sounds pretty rough. But with that said, if they were able to do some games in Montour, I don't. That would also kind of suck because I want these games to be attended, and if they're at Montour and indoors, they don't have a bleachers section. They have a catwalk all around the field where you could watch from the catwalk, I guess, but it's not the same as having a full stadium. So that concerns me. But I do think it will happen. I just don't know if it's the Hounds. In the past, I have said I didn't want it to be the Hounds because I was worried about them having too much on their plate and just pretty much not doing a good job of a women's team. Because they would have, I didn't want the women's team to feel like an aside. I wanted it to be the focus of the organization that runs it. But after seeing Montour and seeing how freaking well-oiled that machine is, it feels like, okay, I could actually see the Hounds doing it. Have a little bit more confidence that the Hounds could juggle both these things.
It sort of just feels like the natural progression, right? I mean, you look even across Europe, all of the different podcasts and shows that you might listen to as it relates to English teams. They're not just talking about the guys team. They're talking about how are the women's teams doing. And it's just, you're not just a team, you're a club. And that's kind of what we've already built here on the academy side, is that belief that we are a club and that, this is to the benefit of everybody, men, women, otherwise. So yeah, I mean, I feel like you want to talk about, or I want to talk about things that will surprise me in the off season. I don't think that they're going to make an announcement this offseason. If they do, that would be amazing. But that would be a surprise to me, is a great surprise. We're going to have a women's, even if it's not for this year, we're going to field a team in 2024 or whatever. And maybe it's just the W League. Maybe it's not even in the Super League. Cool. Those are just steps towards, eventually having a Super League team. So yeah. Kev, any thoughts on any of that?
No, I mean, I'm not well read in this area at all, and so I don't want to be talking out of my butt. I mean, the only thing that seems intuitive to me is if you're gonna do it, kind of like what Josh was saying, none of this half-hearted advertising or just rolling out kind of Control C, Control V, logos or whatever. Build an entire thing around it and promote it accordingly. I think there's a lot of with just the sheer numbers that are being talked about as far as clubs, if they work on, this different seasonal schedule, I think there's just a lot of lessons that could be learned. So yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah.
You mentioned don't Control C, Control V. That just brings up a question, and this is a personal thing. Would you prefer that they be Riverhounds, or would you prefer that they be a separate, have their own brand and identity? Go ahead, Josh.
I was just say in England right now, they're just called I think the women's team is just called Everton. They don't. There's no difference in that. I think that's fine. I would be completely fine with that. I could see an argument that it would be kind of more fun if they had their own identity. Which fair enough. I wouldn't be completely against it, but if you want to build that feeling of it's a club, not a team, that kind of stuff, I feel like you have to keep the identity the same. And especially with the academy and that pathway, I feel like having the women's team just called, the Hounds would the River Hounds would be like what you would want, because that academy will speak to everyone. Then like go through the River Hounds Academy and you could become a pro player in the Hounds.
Yeah. Kev, what do you think?
And once again, like if you're going to do that, then they get like everything, right? Yeah. I mean, like they get the same amount of time on the training field. They get the same amount of budget for like uniforms. They get the same whatever, so yeah, I could see that as well. I hate, well, I mean, and once, like, this is why I don't want to talk too much. Like, I'm a dude who doesn't follow, women's soccer a lot in the U.S., but like, I personally don't like the whole like, lady hounds or whatever. Like,
don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do
that. Yeah. Having like, they're also like the River Hounds. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. And I mean, you want to talk about differentiating yourself in the city? Like, there's no other pro teams in the city that have a club like that, where you have both a men's and women's team playing under the same banner. You talk about community building. You talk about, like, I'd have to imagine that, especially, you could tell a lot of these things. Yost talked a little bit about it with Dennis Chin. A lot of this stuff is building up for the next World Cup to be in North America. And so the timing of it is very much in line with that. But you got to imagine what the Women's World Cup is this year. I saw the U.S. women they just kicked off some pregame matches or preseason matches to get things started. Yeah, I mean, the buzz around the women's game and I think the buzz around Pittsburgh for the women's game is huge. It's just, oh man, like that could cause the whole club to just explode in terms of popularity in my mind. But maybe I'm just being too optimistic. So no, I think that would be amazing. So Jeff, if you're listening to this, you can go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'm sure you're already subscribed, but like the show just to let us know, and that'll be all the signal that we need that this
presumptuous.
Thing is
okay.
I know. Yeah. I was gonna say, what is this? One of those like blink if it's yes and blink if it's no or something. Yeah. If you don't say anything, I'm gonna assume that's the positive response.
You guys. It's fine. Yeah, you're fine. That's good. So let us know your thoughts there. I think, I'm really interested in, would you want them to be a different, fly under a different banner, or would they be Riverhounds? I know there's been a lot of, like, Louisville has a different name for the men's and women's, but similar logos, same color kind of thing. So yeah, let us know what you think, because this is something that could realistically happen. And I'm sure any sort of feedback that could be given in advance I don't want to say will be appreciated, but could be useful. So there you go. Liz just said, same shield, but completely unique kits. But otherwise they should get the same buy-in. So there you go. I don't know if I'm entirely opposed to that. Sell more kits. You buy one for the men's and women's, make some money. Guys, the last little note on here is, I don't know how much there is to talk about it, but it came out this past week that SB Nation, who were previously the home of a ton of MLS, specifically MLS writers and podcasters, for the most part, they were small. I say this as generalizations, small independent writers that were sort of following and covering teams that they love and basically making pennies from SB Nation. We've known a few of them over the years. Well, SB Nation has decided to drop all MLS coverage. So you now have, all of these writers and podcasters that covering their local teams that were doing it pretty much on their own dollar, and now they've got like nowhere to go. So just, further reinforcement. We've been around forever. We don't do this for the money. That's not what I'm sort of plugging here for. But if there are writers, if there are podcasters out there that you like, we had retweeted a tweet that somebody had shared where, there's tons of ways that you can support them, both with money and without money. If you don't want to give any money, then just, subscribe to the shows, leave a comment, like tweets, things like that. That goes a long way towards helping and just sort of supporting what they do. And if you have writers out there that you enjoy and they have like a Patreon, or they have a way to subscribe to a newsletter or something like that, support them, because, all of us are sort of doing this without pretty much at our own cost for the most part. We make a little bit of money from a few supporters here and there, which we thoroughly appreciate. But that typically all goes right back into the show. Like, we've been doing this for 6-ish years now, and our microphones will break. And so, like, we need a new microphone, or like it's typically always technical stuff to just keep the show running. But yeah, it's a shame. You hate to see it. And yeah, so if anybody's looking for a home, BGN makes it free.
I was just ready to ask. I thought maybe I saw it on the agenda. I was like, "Oh, are you making an announcement about a new home for MLS coverage with all the?" I can't remember. I know for like Columbus Crew was the massivereport.com. Like that was the SB Nation site, and like you're saying though, they've been around for as long as I can remember as far as like coverage for MLS, and it was actually kind of inspiration as far as like looking at what MLS had for coverage, and me thinking like back in the day being like, oh, it'd be cool if ULS or USL had that same thing. So like starting up a podcast back in the day about the league, and we had a place that used to be called, like, I think it was like recklesschallenge.com or something like that, where we were covering the whole league, and that's where kind of the idea came from, was SB Nation. So it's gonna be weird to see them go. So
yeah, but at the same time, I want to encourage people, don't get discouraged. If you have a club that you love, even if it's the Hounds, go out and talk about it, create content. I think some people might expect us to sort of be jealous and territorial, but like we spent the first 10 minutes of the show raving about Houndsy. Like, the more content that we could have about the teams that we love, the better. I literally listened to 3 different podcasts about Aston Villa. If there were 3 other podcasts about the Hounds, I'd listen to all of them. So like, by all means, if you're interested, go and do it, because more voices, more ideas, more content is never a bad thing. So,
and it's also something unique, I feel like, to American soccer, because of the fact that we don't get as much coverage with the regular sports channels, the regular avenues. So the fan-made content is what's sprung up because of that. It was all because of, we all wanted to see and hear coverage, but we weren't seeing it, so we just made our own. And SB Nation felt like that was like what started the whole thing. So it's definitely, with American soccer especially, feels like a lot of times this is how we find out about stuff for our club, because we're not able to go to like ESPN and check out the Hound section. So it's, maybe MLS is growing enough where now you could do that, and you see notifications on your phone every once in a while from ESPN about MLS and that kind of stuff, but not really as much as you would about any other sport.
Yeah, agreed. So, guys, I think that's everything that we had on the agenda. We've exhausted the click wheel that I didn't like click at all. The very sad game of life wheel, which that feels like
here's my question. You have a click wheel. Do you plan on not covering something? Like, if you were to have this set up and you spun that wheel, would you just like not cover some things, or would we just be spinning that wheel until we covered all the topics?
Yeah, I think we would spin the wheel to determine the order of topics that we discussed.
Fair enough. I was going to say, I'm not saying you wasted your money on a click wheel, but just wondering.
Listen. We could have like a wild card spot on the click wheel where it's a random topic about nothing. Like, let's talk about the debt ceiling, or like something completely random.
It's going to be like 20 minutes of Kevin's review of Troy.
That's right.
Exactly. That's funny.
I don't think I've ever actually seen Troy, but we're not going to do that on this episode. So
now, without that quick wheel or not, sign up to the Patreon.
That's right. Yeah. Speaking of, we'll have to figure out what we're going to do this year in terms of not Patreon. We got to figure out what's going on with Twitter too. This is a whole, like, I don't know why I'm talking about this on air. There's a whole like behind the scenes thing. Yeah. Okay.
Let's have an admin on air meeting.
Yeah. So listen, if you here's everybody's homework. If you do one thing as a result of the show, go listen to the Houndsy episode with Dennis Chin, because it's that good. And the insight is that good. So go check that out. If you do 2 things, go and give a like, comment something to your favorite podcast for your favorite team, just to sort of show them your support. If you do 3 things, then like hang out on Twitter because we're going to put a lot of these questions about the women's team and just sort of random thoughts of what we discussed here, just to sort of get everybody else's thoughts. So check that out all week. And yeah, next week we should be back with Danny Rivera, which will be fan-friggin-tastic. Can't wait to talk to him. I had the whole man crush on him like all last season, so I'll try to keep that to a minimum while he's on the air. Yeah. So I think we'll just wrap it up there. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.